Now, the top of the hour on the Progressive Voices channel on TuneIn presents the Green News Report.
We did not expect, especially the gravity of what occurred, to hit us and then in such a short period of time.
Tennessee is the latest state slammed by this summer of floods.
And in Juneau, Alaska, residents are breathing a sigh of relief.
The Mendenhall has crested, and it is starting to go down.
New barriers protect much of Juneau, Alaska from glacial outburst flood. Plus, home-based battery systems are helping keep the lights on in Puerto Rico.
All of those lights-on moments and more straight ahead from BradBlog.com. I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
Stand by for 6 minutes of independent green news, politics, analysis, and snarky comment.
Just so people understand, wind and solar only work when there's wind and sun. We don't have technology to store the energy from wind and solar.
Yeah, if only there was some sort of battery-like technology that could store the power from wind and solar. But I don't know anything about it because I'm a disinformed idiot who watches Fox News. This is your Green News Report. Okay, Desi Doyen, battery storage, saving lives all over the country, and yet the idiots on Fox News are just pretending it doesn't even exist. It makes me crazy, so I'm tossing it to you. What do you got today?
Well, first, sadly, Tennessee is the latest U.S. state to be slammed in this summer of floods. The Chattanooga region was inundated by intense storms and deadly flash floods overnight on Tuesday that rapidly submerged cars on Interstate 24 and killed at least 4 people. The eastern U.S. continues to see new rounds of heavy rain and dangerous conditions, including areas devastated by Hurricane Helene last September. In Mexico, extreme rainfall and flooding closed Mexico City's central airport for 2 consecutive days. And also a heads up, as we go to air, Tropical Storm Erin is churning in the Atlantic Ocean. Although it's too early to predict its track, forecasters expect Erin to become the first major hurricane of the 2025 Atlantic season. That means Category 3 or higher, fueled by unusually warm ocean waters now at near record levels due to man-made climate change driven by the burning of fossil fuels.
But it's too far away to know if it's going to make landfall at all, right?
Correct.
So stop scaring me. I'm scared enough already.
In Juneau, Alaska, new temporary flood barriers installed last year appear so far to have protected many vulnerable neighborhoods and infrastructure from a glacial outburst flood. That's when glacier meltwater is trapped behind an ice dam created by a nearby glacier and then breaks free. Juneau's glacial outburst flood reached a record-breaking crest of nearly 17 feet, bigger than the previous record set just last year, which inundated the city. Alaska is warming twice as fast as the rest of the U.S. Juneau's first glacial outburst flood was in 2011. Now they get hit every single summer. Scientists say glacial flood risks are a growing problem in mountain communities around the world. Overall, glaciers in North America and Europe have lost an unprecedented amount of ice in just the past 4 years. A new study has found that glaciers in Washington, Montana, British Columbia, Alberta, and the Swiss Alps have lost massive amounts of ice since 2021, melting at double the rate recorded between 2010 and 2020. Loss of glacier ice contributes to glacial flood risks, landslides like the one that obliterated a Swiss town back in May, loss of freshwater supplies, and much more, according to glaciologist Leon Hosley on NBC News.
It's a really apparent sign of climate change. And in the end, it all flows into the seas, right, into the oceans. And there it's going to affect sea level rise, and that affects a huge amount of people.
Well, if this is happening so quickly, we're going to have to come up with another phrase other than glacial pace.
But some better news. A recent analysis by UK climate data firm Carbon Brief reports that for the first time, China's emissions of climate warming carbon dioxide have begun to fall despite rising demand for electricity, thanks to rapid deployment of solar and wind energy generation. It's not huge, only a 1% drop in China's emissions over the last year, but the analysis shows that China's CO2 emissions have now been stable or falling for more than a year.
Nice. And Fox News said it would never happen.
Finally, the Washington Post reports that household battery storage systems are keeping the lights on during extreme summer energy crunches in Puerto Rico.
Really?
Acting collectively as a virtual power plant to prevent widespread power outages. And it's not just Puerto Rico. Officials in Texas, California, and New England are crediting home battery systems with preventing blackouts during extreme heat waves and soaring electricity demand from proliferating data centers.
Well, don't anyone tell Fox News.
We don't have technology to store the energy from wind and solar.
We like to keep them dumb. For much more on all of these stories and the ones we couldn't get to today, check out our website at greennews.bradblog.com. Find, follow, and share us planet-wide on the social medias, especially Blue Sky at Green News Report. I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
And this has been your Green News Report.
Please help Progressive Voices support the Green News Report by stopping by bradblog.com/donate.
Why do they doubt the kid? I'm about to prove them all wrong again. I got a low tolerance, cause they don't even know what the problem is. It's me. You waiting on the boy to fail, then hold your breath and face your death. Cause you play a roulette with each step I progress, no less. Go ahead and place your bets. Cause we know who we at, we know we top tier. Cause all the hate that you bring, we know it stops here. I'm taking off like a rocket here, ain't stopping here. It's strange how they cannot see the future, but see profit here. Wait up, we gon' always win. Hello, I can't take no loss. My team hold no L's, no. Aiming for the top, can't make it by myself.
We made it on air. We're on air. We're live. Brett Breaks Things. It's a Friday show. Welcome. Do want to apologize for yesterday's difficulties. I mean, yesterday, man. I don't know what I did karmically, but there was some serious backlash yesterday. Everything that could go wrong did go wrong, including the gods of the internet deciding to shut us down. So we didn't get much into the show. All right, we didn't get much into the show. You may see a couple of... Speaking of aesthetics, I'm going to dig into my aesthetics for just a second. I can't wait till the shot is done. A lot of you expressed that you like the new look. I do too. I love the new background, the flag, the lighting. I'm thrilled. I just know what it's going to be. The necessary parts are ordered. Everything's on its way. The aesthetics will get a little bit of a boost, a little shot in the arm in just a little bit. Speaking of aesthetics, you might see I have a computer over here. Why? I'm by myself. Solo dolo today. Scott hates it when I go off script. I don't know if he's catching it right now or if he's going to catch it later, but he's not here. Hates it when I go off script. Now, Scott, I know what you're thinking. You're about to get really upset. Don't. I'm not going to say where and what you're doing. I will say this, MAGA, you're not getting to my boy. You're not getting to my Jewish producer. He is in the Bible Belt somewhere right now. He is deep in enemy territory. I'm not going to be the one to give it up. I'm not going to give up the secrets. You can't hack me, Russia. You can't give up my boy's location. So I'm by myself today. We'll see how it goes. Speaking of today, now, like I said yesterday, we got cut short. A lot of you know that. But a lot of my viewership comes, it's the thickest right in the middle and near the end. And then a lot of people come back and view later on the website or the YouTube page when we post the video, the full video. So to those of you who come early, I'm just going to ask your patience because I have to build the narrative. So you're going to hear some similar things that you heard just before we got clipped yesterday, but it's important I build the narrative. That being said, however long today's show goes, it goes. Okay, so if we go over an hour, we go deeper. Most days I toss stuff out, right? I toss so much stuff out to get within an hour. So many of you expressed it's time for 2 hours. We here at the Brett Breaks Things show, we happen to agree with you, but we have to take things one step at a time. We have to walk before we run type of deal. But trust me, we're getting there. And today might be a step in that direction as we are probably going to go over today. I'm not throwing anything out. I'm not cutting anything short. I'm going to give you all of it because I was so excited to give you all of it yesterday. So I'm going to do that today. And, the stuff I was going to talk about yesterday is just as relevant because the meeting between Putin and Trump is happening today, 11:30 Alaskan time. They are meeting, and we're going to get into all of that. Now, I do want to go back and play some of the things that he said at the presser before, he got ready to go because some of it's relevant, really relevant. I do want to get into it. But none of this is really necessary, right? There is no war, right? Because that's what we were promised. We were promised day one, right, Don? Then none of this should be necessary.
day, 24 hours. I will have that war settled when I'm president-elect, meaning before I get to office on January 20th. I will settle the war in Ukraine before I even take office. I'll settle it as president-elect. Do you trust President Putin? You know, in about 2 weeks.
Do you still believe that Putin actually wants to end the war?
I can't tell you that, but I'll let you know in about 2 weeks. I'm going to make a new deadline of about 10 or 12 days
On
from
top of the 2
today.
days.
10 days from today.
Oh, from that day. 10 days from that day. Are we still in the 10-day period? I don't know when it began and ended. But I know that you promised everybody on the campaign trail, along with a ton of your promises, like no tax on tip, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security. Lie, lie, lie. Won't touch your Medicaid, won't touch your Medicare, won't touch SNAP, won't touch the ACA. Lie, 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 lie. All lies. So just another one, another campaign lie. He's not the first to do it, won't be the last. Another campaign lie. I'll have the war ended. So none of this should be necessary, but yet it is. It is necessary because the war rages on. He took some questions at a press conference about this meeting and about Russia in general. And I'm gonna some of you guys are like, is he gonna mention? Yeah, I'm gonna mention again. I'm gonna mention all of this real quickly again. Again, I gotta build my narrative, but this first question in front of all the pertinent meeting questions, this first one really threw me. It threw Don too.
There's new reporting that the Russians have hacked into some computer systems that manage U.S. federal court documents. I wonder if you've seen this reporting and if you plan to bring it up with Putin when you see him later in the week.
I guess I could. Are you surprised? You know, are you surprised? They hack in. That's what they do. They're good at it. We're good at it.
Oh, my God.
We're actually better at it. But no, I have heard about it. I have heard about it.
Yeah, what are you, surprised? Bad actors globally do bad actor things, right? We're doing it. We're better at it. What is that, a challenge? Are you challenging the Russian hackers? We're better at it. We're better at it. What are you, surprised? And, of course, Don's not surprised by despicable behavior out of the highest levels of government. Of course he's not surprised. He is. That's his element, baby. That's his deal. That's his shtick. What are you, surprised? No, Don's not surprised. You shouldn't be surprised either. Except this time they hacked the computer system that manages our federal court systems and our federal court documents. Yeah. And, highly sensitive records about people with court cases, people who have been charged with national security crimes, really, really sensitive stuff was hacked this time. And the administrators, they say this is a persistent and sophisticated cyber threat, and at this time it's compromised sealed records. It's a persistent and sophisticated cyber threat. And it remains, quote, an urgent matter that requires immediate action. Don's not going to really do anything about it. He'll just acknowledge it once a reporter asks him about it, right? We didn't hear about it out of his administration. We didn't hear about it out of them. We heard about it out of this reporter who did a little gotcha on Don about it. And Don's not going to be got. He's not going to get got. What are you, surprised? Nah, no biggie. We're doing it better. We're doing it better, baby. Relax, guy. Relax. But he took some questions on Russia.
Will Russia face any consequences if Vladimir Putin does not agree to stop the war after your meeting on Friday?
Yes, they will. Yeah.
What will the consequences
there will be
be?
consequences.
Sanctions, tariffs?
There will be. I don't have to say. There will be very severe consequences. Yes. Yeah, please.
Yeah, and again, I don't. If your stance is, going into this meeting, if you're thinking, I'm not going to take nothing from Vladimir, I'm ready for heavy sanctions. I'm ready for heavy consequences. If that's his stance, then so be it. Fine. Whatever your negotiating tactic is, it is. Okay, we can't do much about it. We can only hope it's effective and represents the interests of the Ukrainian people, not just the interests of Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin. Of course, that is lofty aspirations. I understand that. But if your deal is we're ready for sanctions, we're ready for consequences, just keep it a little close to the cuff, Don. Why are you're out here challenging this guy, setting this toxic tone for this meeting ahead of it? You think he doesn't see that? How do you think Putin feels about that? Getting ready to have a meeting with you, Don. The puppet master is going to have a meeting with the puppet, and now the puppet's threatening him ahead of time. I just don't see that going well. I see that as bad tactics out of Don. That's how I see that. But yeah, he's ready, and I'm fine with consequences. Let's get the sanctions rolling again. Let's get the secondary sanctions going on allies of Russia, countries that are buying Russian oil, providing money for equipment, troops, supplies. Providing money to make sure that Putin can wage this war as long as they'd like to. You want to do secondary sanctions on them? Fine. I'm okay with the tactic. I'm just not okay with you out here threatening this guy before you sit down with him. It seems like poor deal making to me, Mr. Art of the Deal.
Alaska. Yeah. Do you believe you can convince him to stop targeting civilians in Ukraine?
Well, I'll tell you what, I've had that conversation with him. I've had a lot of good conversations with him. Then I go home and I see that a rocket hit a nursing home or a rocket hit an apartment building and people are laying dead in the street. So I guess the answer to that is no, because I've had this conversation. I want to end the war. It's Biden's war, but I want to end it. I'll be very proud to end this war along with the 5 other wars I ended. But I guess the answer to that is probably no, because I would have had a good conversation with Vladimir. I knew him very well. I got along with him great, actually. We had the Russia. I had to go through the Russia.
Okay, yeah, the Russia thing. You're the victim, Don. You're the victim. I like this answer, though, because this is Don being honest. You see, Putin's influence over Don has beaten Don down. It's beaten him down. And now he's out here admitting, yeah, you know what? I don't think I can do anything about it. He's told me he's going to stop. He's told me he'll, cease the bombing, cease the drone raids. He's told me he'll sit down and talk, and then he kills civilians. So no, I don't think I can do anything about it. There you go, Don. You've been lied to. You've been played. You've been embarrassed. And at least you see it as we see it now. At least you're starting to see, the optics are starting to sink in even to you, Don. Yeah, you're right. You can't do anything about it. We'll see what comes of this meeting. Because so far, you've been fairly lame when it comes to doing anything about stopping Ukrainian civilians from dying. And I did pull these numbers yesterday. I'm just going to go through them quickly again. Ukrainian civilians, 13,000 killed, 34,000 wounded. Okay, from February 2022 to 2025, to June 2025. Among those, 716 of them are children. Don has been able to do nothing to stop this. And as far as troops killed, 70,000 Ukrainian troops have been killed, 65,000 missing, 6,000 captured. As far as the Russians, well, I mean, we know, we've heard about where Vladimir is getting his soldiers, underage, outskirts, small farm towns in the outskirts of Russia, getting pulled off their farms, going to the jails, emptying the jails. Any male, fresh body that's able to hold a gun and take a direction has been sent to the front lines. They have over 250,000 killed in combat and around 700,000 wounded. That's 1 million casualties on the Russian side. Just so we're clear what's at stake here. Just so we're clear about how feckless this guy has been to stop any of it. And I don't have to hurry through today's show. I love that I don't have to hurry. I know you guys who came early, it's almost over, the stuff you heard. And I do want to hear from Brendan Boyle again.
Trump promising very severe consequences on Russia if Putin does not agree to end the war during Friday's meeting. Do you think Vladimir Putin is intimidated by that threat?
No. I mean, President Trump has already twice imposed a deadline on Vladimir Putin. Both times that deadline came and went with nary a peep from President Trump. I have to say, I'm very concerned about this upcoming bilateral summit on Friday. I know that many of my Ukrainian American constituents, as you may know, I represent one of the largest concentrations of Ukrainian Americans anywhere in our country. They are incredibly nervous and anxious about President Trump giving away the store on Friday. Let's not forget, Vladimir Putin launched this brutal war. He is a lifetime career KGB operative who once said the greatest geopolitical catastrophe of the 20th century was the collapse of the Soviet Union. That's why he's launched this war. That's why he moved on Georgia in 2008. That's why he has his designs on other former Soviet republics. That is really what's at stake on Friday.
Okay, that's Brendan Boyle. He's a rep out of Pennsylvania, and he makes a ton of sense every time I play a clip of him. Every time I play a clip, he makes sense. That's we're working it out. Listen, he's telling you right there why Putin's doing this. He's telling you right there, no, he doesn't expect Putin to be afraid. When has Putin ever shown any type of fear of Donald Trump, Mr. Bigly, strongly on the world stage? No, Putin's not afraid of sanctions or consequences in front of this meeting. Of course he's not.
It's time for a quick break, then we break some more. You're listening to Brett Breaks Things.
Here at the Lincoln Project, we'd like to make an ad reminding Americans of the prices of everything from gas to groceries to school supplies. The cost of all of these things is way up. The reason we'd like to make this ad is simple. Donald Trump promised that prices on these things would go down if he was elected. With that in mind, let's remember one thing. Donald Trump's administration just ordered Ghislaine Maxwell, the woman who ran Jeffrey Epstein's pedophile sex trafficking ring, to a cushy, low-security prison, and he said he's allowed to pardon her.
Is clemency on the table for her in exchange for testimony?
I know I have the right to do it. I have the right to give pardons. I've given pardons to people before.
A deal that good? Sounds like a good reason to lie about Trump's role in the Epstein saga. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
He said it over and over for years.
Can you guarantee that Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security will not be touched?
Yeah, I mean, I have said it so many times, you shouldn't be asking me that question. Medicare, Medicaid, none of that stuff is going to be touched.
Nothing.
We're going to love and cherish Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. We're not going to do anything with that.
His biggest MAGA supporters said no cuts to Medicaid.
It is wrong to cut health care for the working poor.
There's a lot of MAGAs on Medicaid. I'm telling you, if you don't think so, you are dead wrong.
The effect of this bill is to break a promise.
Trump lied.
The Medicaid cuts could cause nearly 12 million people to lose their health insurance.
With this mega bill set to enact the largest cuts to Medicaid in decades, experts are warning that many struggling hospitals in rural communities could close their doors.
But they're not cutting it. They're looking at fraud, waste, and abuse.
He thinks you're stupid and he can fool you. He doesn't care about your health insurance. All he wanted was your vote. Donald Trump. It's just not working.
You're back with Brett Breaks Things, because democracy doesn't defend itself.
Hearing from leadership or counterparts in the EU, I know you have many close contacts there. Do they feel powerless at this moment because they seem to be on the sidelines, or are they hopeful for something good to come out of Friday?
Well, I happen to have a leadership position within the NATO Parliamentary Assembly, so I have a lot of colleagues I speak to who are from the other 31 NATO nations. They are deeply worried about this bilateral summit on Friday. Frankly, whether talking to British or Lithuanian or Polish or German or French colleagues of mine, they have the same view that I've expressed here on CNN, a real wariness about this summit on Friday and the potential that it ends up with Putin playing Donald Trump, just flattering him, appealing to Donald Trump's fragile ego. Frankly, this is relatively easy for Vladimir Putin to do, because we know time and time again, President Trump craves the approval of Vladimir Putin.
Yeah. I mean, playing Donald Trump is kind of a light lift for a guy like Putin. All right. He's dictator extraordinaire, ex-KGB agent. Like, playing this guy's not a heavy lift. It's just not. It's just not. And Brendan's telling you the global community basically has no confidence in this meeting. No confidence that it will represent the Ukrainian people's needs and the stopping of their deaths at all, or what Zelensky feels is in the best interest for his country. No. This meeting will be about the puppet master sitting down to negotiate with the puppet. Things like that don't usually go well. They don't go well. And Mr. Zelensky, he gets it. He gets it. This isn't lost on him. Okay? And I said yesterday, I did play this yesterday. I'm going to play. We're getting right there. People who come early, we're getting right there. And I said yesterday, I want to give Zelensky a platform. We don't hear enough from this man. He's a great leader in the face of a great tragedy. And he's the right leader for this country right now. And globally, he's not given a big platform. In America, he's not given a platform at all. And I mean, the things he says things, he speaks as if he's a leader who's in desperate need of the global community to come to his aid, but understands the politics at work. And at the same time, he impresses upon you the tragedy that his people are going through. The deaths, the death toll, the devastated cities. Everything he says, the subtext is, my people are dying. My country is getting destroyed by a foreign invader, and I have to play politics with the global community and Donald Trump to get any help. But we're going to hear from him. He deserves a platform.
Told President Trump and all our European allies, Putin is bluffing. He's trying to push before the Alaska meeting on all directions of our front line. Russia wants to occupy the whole of Ukraine. This is his wish. And Putin is bluffing that sanctions is nothing and they don't work. In fact, sanctions are hitting Russian war economy hard. It's true. Russia has a lot of weapons, many times over than we have. Artillery, let's say, for three times more. But they sustaining 3 times more losses. And I said about it to our European friends, to President Trump, that Putin definitely does not want peace. He wants to occupy Ukraine.
And there it is. And there it is. He's telling Donald Trump, this is not actually an attempt at a ceasefire or any type of peace. He wants to stall and buy more time to take more territory. That's what he wants. He wants all of Ukraine. He wants it all. Brendan Boyle's telling you, he wants to restore the former Soviet Union, country by country, piece by piece. Ukraine is a gigantic piece of that puzzle. It's what he wants. He can talk about a ceasefire. He can talk about terms, all he wants. But some of them see it for what it is. It's a stall tactic. He wants more time for a bigger push. That's what he wants. That's what he wants. Zelensky gets it. Now, Zelensky, early last week, he was out on the front lines. He was in the Sumy. He was in the Sumy region. Northeastern. I'm going to show you a map in just a little bit. The Sumy region right now there's a big Russian push in that region, northeast region of Ukraine. And I am going to show you a map. Sumy is the site of some of the heaviest fighting right now on the front lines. He stopped there to talk with the soldiers, morale boost, right? Little morale boost for the soldiers. Zelensky comes by the front lines. Then after that, he went to a small city called Romney, and he got on a secure line with Mr. Trump. And Mr. Trump and Mr. Trump's diplomats have been in contact with Moscow, not Putin, but Moscow. And Moscow was kind of laying out some terms that they would be comfortable with, some things they would be comfortable discussing at the meeting today. Okay? And he got on the phone call with Zelensky, Trump did, and he laid it out. And he said Moscow's ready to halt hostilities for a territorial exchange. A territorial exchange, okay, is what he told Zelensky. That is something Zelensky has been against from the beginning. It is a steadfast position that Zelensky has held the entire time. We are not willing to just cede territory to an invader. That's not how this works. Too many Ukrainians have died. We're not doing it. But that's what Trump told him Moscow's willing to do. And he said Trump said he's going to steal a deal. Mr. Dealmaker loves to talk, right? Loves to talk. I'm going to steal a deal. says things that don't really mean anything. Now, Zelenskyy then addressed his people. He said he spoke with Trump, and he said to his people, Russia seems a little more inclined to come to a ceasefire now than they were prior, and that's true. But he warned his people, the key is to ensure they do not deceive anyone, not us, who aren't really invited, and not the United States. Okay, so he didn't want to just say what Moscow's terms were to his people, but he did say that Moscow's willing to come to the table, okay? They're willing to come to a table, and they have terms that they're willing to discuss. They're more inclined, but we have to be wary. We have to be wary. Now, this left Zelenskyy scrambling to try to find out what territories was Don talking about, because Don was very vague. What territories could he be talking about? What type of swap could he be talking about? And Trump's special peace envoy, Steve Witkoff, and we're going to hear from him in a second, Mr. Witkoff got on a phone call with Zelenskyy to try to clarify things a little bit. But Witkoff was a little mealy-mouthed about it, vague in the details, wouldn't name anything specific. Okay, now Zelenskyy had thought maybe with a swap they were talking about maybe some Ukrainian-controlled land in Donbass, swapped for some Russian-occupied territory in the south, or maybe the Russian-held Zaporizhzhia nuclear facility for a Ukrainian city. He was trying to get a hold of what he was talking about. Witkoff was being a little mealy-mouthed about it, so they had to have another call the next day with some other diplomats from the EU and some other people on the phone call with Steve. And then Steve laid it out. No, they're not talking about an exchange. Moscow's not talking about an exchange. Don had lied. Moscow's talking about we get Donbass and we might consider a ceasefire. No exchange. You just forevermore give up the Donbass region and we'll talk. Not give up the Donbass region and we'll end the war. No. Give up the Donbass region and we'll talk. Were Moscow's terms. Okay? Zelensky's not having it. He's not having it. Shortly after that, he had a few choice words. Ukrainians will not gift their land to an occupier. Okay? Any decisions made against us, any decisions made without Ukraine, are at the same time decisions against peace. They will bring nothing. They are dead decisions. They will never work. That's the words of Vladimir. That's the words of Vladimir. One of his officers, I thought this was interesting. This is reporting out of New York Times, by the way. Wall Street Journal, New York Times, we've been leaning on them heavy for a lot of these details leading up to this mission. The New York Times did amazing work on these phone calls and the details of these phone calls with Zelenskyy. Really good work. One Ukrainian officer said, quote, this is from a Ukrainian officer, "Exchanging territories is not peace. It is a breather for the enemy before a new attack. We do not bargain with the blood and graves of our people. Every meter of Ukraine has been fought for, and my brothers in arms have paid for it with their lives." Not having it. So we know at least Zelenskyy is echoing the thoughts of his military commanders, the soldiers, how they feel about an exchange or giving up territory. It's a no-go. It's a non-starter. It's a non-starter. We're going to hear from Witkoff real quick because he's just going to lay it right on the line here. He comes back to the States, gets right on CNN, and lays it right on the line.
Certainly, I think, I took Zelensky's comments at face value, which is that no big chunks or...
Okay, I was saying Steve Witkoff. I'm sorry. Matthew Whitaker. I apologize. The special envoy, some of you probably caught that earlier. It's Matthew Whitaker. I'm glad I caught myself at all. If I had a problem admitting my mistakes, I would have a lot of problems in my life. So I have no problem admitting my mistake here. It's Matthew Whitaker. You can understand my mistake. Here he is. This is the guy that talked to Zelenskyy, the mealy-mouthed guy who didn't have really the balls to express what Moscow really wanted. This is him. I'm sorry.
Certainly, I think, I took Zelensky's comments at face value, which is that no big chunks or, sections are going to be just given that haven't been fought for or earned on the battlefield. But I come back to where I started, which is, we need this war to end. We could save thousands of lives with a deal. And I think that by both sides communicating by President Trump meeting in Alaska on Friday with either one or both of the combatants. I think this is exciting, and I think President Trump's really the only one that could make this happen. He's the sole reason I think this meeting is happening on Friday. He's a peacemaker. He's averaging about a peace deal a month right now. We saw this week where Armenia and Azerbaijan came together to settle their decades-long conflict. It's been a series of peace deals, and so I think President Trump is best situated to see if a deal can be had and if both sides can agree to ending the slaughter.
You are
okay. So what I'm going to say now, some of you might be like, Brett, you're being a little dramatic. I don't think so. What I'm going to say now, the choice is clear, President Zelenskyy. Give up a third or about a fourth of your country for good, or burn to the ground. The United States is not interested in you keeping your territory in the north, the south, or the Donbass. I'm going to show you what territory we're talking about. I'm going to hip you to the area we're talking about and the severity of giving up this type of land to Russia. There it is. We're not going to give away any land that has not been fought for on the battlefield. That means he's saying flat out, if Russia fought and earned that land in Ukraine, it's theirs. We're not giving away anything that hasn't been earned in the battlefield. There it is. There it is, Ukraine.
We'll be back to break it all down. You're listening to Brett Breaks Things.
A year ago, he was Donald Trump's criminal defense attorney. Todd Blanche defended Trump in the Stormy Daniels hush money trial. Trump was convicted on all 34 counts. Today, he's an assistant attorney general of the United States. What's he doing? Flying to Florida to talk with sex trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell, convicted in the Epstein criminal case. Here's what Donald Trump had to say about the convicted sex trafficker.
I wish her well. Whatever it is, I just wish her well, frankly.
So what do you think Donald Trump's former criminal defense lawyer's doing, talking behind closed doors with Donald Trump's old friend, Ghislaine Maxwell?
We don't want to comment about the substance of the meeting for obvious reasons.
Come on. Do they think we're that stupid? Maxwell knows everything. She'd love a pardon.
She answered all the questions truthfully, honestly, and to the best of her ability.
Yeah, Donald Trump thinks we're that stupid. Release the Epstein files. Now.
Now back to Brett Breaks Things, smashing spin, silencing the noise, and keeping it all facts. No fluff.
All right. So I'm throwing around terms of Ukrainian cities, regions, Romney, Sumy, Donbass. I'm throwing these around. I'm going to hip you to exactly what we're talking about here, okay? Because I want you to understand what's at stake here. And when this gets talked about, and when it gets talked about a lot after this meeting, and we hear again from Zelenskyy, responding to whatever may come from this meeting, I want you to understand the context, okay? All right, so here's Ukraine right now. Everything in red is either Russian-controlled, being attacked by Russia, or tentatively held by Ukraine. Everything you see in red. Now, it's tough to see some of those city names, so I'm gonna take you down from the northeast region that I mentioned earlier, and I'm gonna take you down real quick. Up above Kyiv, you can see Kyiv there, their capital, Chernihiv, that is being fought for. To the east of Chernihiv is Sumy, the Sumy region, where some of the most fierce fighting is happening right now. If you follow that down, you heard the city Kharkiv, another region, heavy fighting. Going south, you've got Luhansk, Donetsk, Dnipro, Zaporizhia. Going south, Mariupol, Melitopol, and Kherson down by Odessa. Now, Odessa in the south, on that bay, on that port, that is a huge commercial hub and one of the main goals of the Russian offensive. That's one of the things they really want. They lost control of it just after 2014 with Ukraine's revolution, and they want it back. They want control of Odessa back. Okay? Now, as we talk about the Donbass region, and we're going to get into the Donbass region just a little bit here, that is the region east of Luhansk. Okay? The two big chunks of red directly east of Luhansk, the eastern part, that is the Donbass region. Okay? And that has been fought for over the years. That has been a site of heavy fighting over the years. World War II, it saw some of the fiercest battles right there in the Donbass region. And here's the thing. There's a line of cities that runs down the Donbass region to the western portion of the Donbass region that is still under Ukrainian control. And there is a major highway that connects all of those cities. And without those cities, with any one of those cities, if any one of those cities fall to the Russians, that line, that defensive line that they've been able to hold will collapse. And that is why the envoys from Moscow, the diplomats from Moscow, talking to Whitaker, talking to Trump, they say specifically, we want the Donbass. We want it. The Donbass has seen partisan fighting. Ukrainians who sympathize with Russians have been fighting other Ukrainians. It's very messy. But they've been holding because of this line of fortification. It is held. They lose any one of those cities, the whole Eastern Front crumbles. And that could be game over. Could be. So, of course, Russia wants the Donbass region. And the Ukrainians have spent tens of millions of dollars in fortifications up and down that road. The Russians want that too. Why not get better fortifications? Just in case the peace talks break down, right? We're going to request the Donbass region in order to talk peace. Talk peace. Oh, they broke down? Now we got your fortifications. Now we've got your line. Now we've got your defensive line. You have no more defensive line in the Donbass. Now we move in earnest. Don's going to get played. Vladimir Zelenskyy just told you Don's going to get played. He is waiting. He is playing Trump for time to push, to resupply, and to get that fortification out of Ukrainian control. Get that line of defense out of Ukrainian control. That is the game here. That's the game Putin is playing. It's the goal. So, the meeting is today. Putin has praised Don publicly, saying he's making energetic and sincere attempts at peace. These are sincere efforts, and we're proud of Don. It's the puppet master telling the puppet how proud he is of him. The Kremlin's top economic envoy, a guy named Kirill Dmitriev, he said, quote, "This is a chance to reset U.S.-Russia relations if the meeting goes well." Great. Thank you, Dmitriev. Thank you. Thanks for that. If the meeting goes well. So it's up to Don. It's up to Don. It's up to Mr. Art of the Deal, Mr. Dealmaker. He's going to go to Alaska. He thought he was going to Russia, by the way. We ditched some of the older clips because he talked about this earlier this week. And in one clip, he said, "I'm going to Russia. Nobody's ever gone to Russia before. I'm going to Russia." No, you're not going to Russia. You're not going to Russia, bud. You're going to be in the United States. It's okay. So let's talk about the meeting real quick, just so we're all hip to it. It's going to start at 11:30 Alaska time. It's going to be at JBER, the Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson in Anchorage. Okay, it's a private one-on-one meeting, just Don, Vladimir, and translators. That's it. But afterwards, they're going to have an expanded bilateral working lunch, a joint press conference. Oh, and Zelenskyy wasn't invited, just so we're clear. It's not that Zelensky's busy visiting the troops or defending his country. It's that he wasn't invited. And that's why he said any deal made without us, it's a dead deal. Not even invited. Not even invited. There's been some really good reporting here, okay? And so I'm gonna put a bow on this one. Little reporting out of the Bulwark. It kind of broke down, I would love for you to go and check this out after the show. Go to thebulwark.com to check out this article, the real reason for the summit. And in this article, they kind of lay out, they lay out, the narrative that this is kind of part of the 19th century imperial powers settling spheres of influence, settling spheres of influence concerning countries that they are dominating or ruling over. They're going to settle, demarcation, borders. They're going to do that for countries who don't get a say. No input, no complicity. We're the major powers. You end up doing what we say. It's a pretty cool article, but it also creates a parallel with Trump. The last time he tried something like this, he went and he negotiated with the Taliban in Afghanistan. You remember that? And he did it without any Afghanistani governmental assistance, input, complicity. He just unilaterally went and he made a deal. He cut a deal with the Taliban. Right? And he released 10,000 captured Taliban soldiers. And when we pulled out, the Afghani government lasted about 10 hours till it was done, kaput. The Taliban now rules that country. That's the outcome of his last deal. Does this sound familiar in any way? We're going to cut a deal that's going to weaken this country's defenses, and then we're going to stand back and watch the chaos play out. Oh, we cut a deal that crippled your defenses in the East, and now Russia's free to go right straight to Kyiv? Sorry, we tried. Couldn't make a deal this time. Mr. Dealmaker couldn't make a deal. Get ready. Get ready. Okay? We're going to move on from this topic, but I think Whitaker's comments make it very clear. He said, "We are not going to give up any territory in Ukraine that has not already been gained on the battlefield." Meaning, Russia, you took what you took. You took what you took. You're going to keep it. And we're going to cut a deal to make sure you don't take any more. Maybe. So Ukraine either gives up a fourth of its country or it burns to the ground. Those are its options. Those are its options. We're going to move on. We're going to move on. I'm going to show you some stuff from D.C. We're going to move on to D.C. for a little bit. Some of the people who are influencing the situation had some things to say about this. I'm gonna play a little bit of Trump, then we're gonna hit the break and we're gonna come back because I'm gonna enjoy myself. I'm gonna talk about something. I spent at least an hour laughing at a particular story this morning as we were putting together the narrative, and I can't wait to share it with you. But I don't want to kill the momentum, so I'm just gonna let Don take us into the break with a couple bites here.
We're going to fight crime. That's a good thing. Already they're saying, he's a dictator. The place is going to hell, and we've got to stop it. So instead of saying he's a dictator, they should say, we're going to join him and make Washington safe. But they say, he's a dictator. And then they end up getting mugged, and but the stats are very bad. But we're going to... I think we'll actually get Democrat support. I really believe they can't do this one too.
They can. He's talking about Democrat support. Support for what? Support for what? Don? Support for making this little federalization of Washington, D.C. permanent. That's what he's talking about. He's not going to say it right out, but he's talking about making it permanent. Permanent. And what he's already allowed to do is egregious enough. Okay, he's allowed quite a bit under the Home Rule Act in terms of federalization of the D.C. police force and having his SS roaming the streets. He could also direct federal units to be more forceful, right? Use tear gas, riot gear, armored vehicles, low-flying aircraft, and more aggressive tools and tactics, all under his purview. All under his purview. But he's talking about making this permanent. But to make it permanent, he needs 60 votes in the Senate. Right now they have a 53-47 advantage in the Senate. If he's going to do this, he has to move quick because we don't know what the alignment's going to look like in the House and the Senate after this midterm next year. Could get pretty interesting. I don't want to get too excited, but I mean, his little reign of terror could come to an end real quick if we vote the right way in the midterms. He loses the House, and God forbid he loses the Senate. You could see a quick end to his little reign of terror. They call me a dictator. Yeah, we're calling you a dictator, bro. Yes, you know the optics. You're saying it out of your own mouth. Yes, we're calling you a dictator. Yes, we are. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your federalization of the police has a 30-day limit unless Congress acts to extend it. Are you talking to Congress about extending it, or do you believe 30 days is sufficient?
Well, if it's a national emergency, we can do it without Congress, but we expect to be to Congress before Congress very quickly. And again, we think the Democrats will not do anything to stop crime, but we think the Republicans will do it almost unanimously. So we're going to need a crime bill that we're going to be putting in.
Yep. So he's talking about a crime bill, but what he's really talking about, is this being his own little fiefdom. Federalizing D.C. permanently. That's what he's really talking about. Hey, 700,000 residents of Washington, D.C., are you ready for King Trump? You ready? You ready for your city to be the shining MAGA example? Federal troops, DEA, CPB for some reason, all crawling around your streets en masse, in lockstep with your MPD, the former arbiters of crime and justice in your city, now overshadowed by Trump's SS. You comfortable with this? I'm going to show you some people that aren't comfortable with it. It's going to be my pleasure to do so. Not everybody's down. Some people are more vocal than others.
They'll try to repair the narrative, but Brett Breaks Things will be back tomorrow to break it all down.
The only solution that I see is to establish a firm front. And the more resolute the front, the more effective it will be.
I want to emphasize that the damage report which I gave to you is based on preliminary reports received shortly after the completion of operations. I'll take your questions and endeavor to answer them, yes.
I want to assure all of you that we understand our solemn obligation to the American people to keep them informed of developments.
These events occurred on my watch. As Secretary of Defense, I am accountable for them, and I take full responsibility.
The United States will not look the other way when fundamental principles of the international order are being challenged.
Today's congressional action will ensure our military can defend our way of life, preserve the promise of prosperity, and pass on the freedoms you and I enjoy to the next generation.
Thanks again for being here. And with that, I'll be happy to take some questions.
See, this is the kind of thing the press does, right? Whether it's the Washington Post or Fox News or CNN or MSNBC, you start a news cycle that starts to call into question the ethics. No, that's why. Jennifer, you've been about the worst. The one who misrepresents the most intentionally what the president says. I'm familiar.
You think we need to see that?
Do you have a top secret clearance, sir?
Eventually.
Talk a little bit more about your role, sir.
You're back with Brett Breaks Things, where the truth hits harder than the headlines.
Hold on, I'm going.
Whoops, I guess this is the unedited version. Sorry about that, YouTube. All right, the reason I showed, I missed the edit. The reason I showed you that, I just want to kind of hip you to what it looks like on the streets of D.C. right now. That is 14th Street. That's 14th Street. Now, I teased you with some people are more vocal about their dissension than others, right? More demonstrative, maybe. I'm going to show you a gentleman that, if I was being superficial and I saw him on the street, I might think to myself, me and this guy, we don't have anything in common. Just from looking at you, we don't have much in common. He's got the hair. He's got the the pink shirt, open, like 3 buttons open, wilding out a little bit. I would think we don't have a lot in common. Oh, how wrong I would be. How wrong I would be. Some of you may have seen this story. Yeah. I think I found my spirit animal.
They what?
You see these fascists right here in our
Fascists?
You! Shame!
There it is. Shame. Yes, Cersei. Shame. Yeah, shame.
I laugh, but that's the truth, though. We really talking real shit.
And he's got an
I need to do
audience.
some background studying about the Federal Bar Association.
These bystanders just letting crazy white people do crazy white people things. They're happy for it. They're happy to see it. They're here for it. They love it. Uh-oh, here we go. He's not done.
They for the man.
Right in their face. Look at this guy.
It's for the man. Hey, Daddy, bro, let's go get him, bro. Let's get that.
No.
This guy's my hero.
No.
You busy?
Motherfucker.
That was amazing. Amazing. I gotta be honest, that is the only proper use of a Subway sandwich. They are not to be eaten. You are to start the revolution with them. That is the proper use of a Subway sandwich. Throw it. He threw it at a CPB officer. That officer stood right there. He stood right there. And the guy, he wound up so big. And the officer, don't worry. The officer was not injured. The officer was not injured. Oh, man. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Pam Bondi talked about it. We're going to hear from Piero about this. And what was Customs Border Patrol? What are they doing there, Customs Border Patrol? Just another piece in the authoritarian machine sent there to, put a fist, clamp down on crime in D.C. CPP's got to be there for some reason. But yeah, that was 14th Street. That's what's happening on 14th Street in Washington, D.C. That is Sean C. Dunn, 37. He said, quote, "I did it. I threw the sandwich." Bondi said, "If you touch any law enforcement officer, we will come out." They took this so seriously. This is the biggest thing. This is justification for everything they're doing. Sandwich guy. Justifying every bit of force. Every federal troop on the streets of D.C. has been justified now. You touch any of our law enforcement officers, we will come after you. Mr. Dunn is an example of the deep state we have been up against for 7 months. Why is she calling him the deep state? Well, Mr. Dunn served as a paralegal in the Department of Office and Internal Affairs. That's right. That's right. He's part of our government. He worked for the government. Not anymore. He has been fired. You will not work in this administration while disrespecting our government and law enforcement, Bondi said. Very serious response to that very serious altercation. That crowd they were there for it. Just egging him on. Amazing. Yeah, Peter talked about it.
And the president's message to the criminals was, if you spit, we hit. Well, we didn't quite do that the other night when an individual went up to one of the federal law enforcement officers and started jumping up and down, screaming at him, berating him, yelling at him. And then he took a Subway sandwich about this big and took it and threw it at the officer. He thought it was funny. Well, he doesn't think it's funny today because we charged him with a felony, assault on a police officer. And we're going to back the police to the hilt. So there, stick your Subway sandwich somewhere else.
That's another, I guess, use for a Subway sandwich other than eating it is sticking it places. That's fine, Janine. But, very serious response to this very serious crime. So there. Grown woman, U.S. Attorney of D.C. So there. Well spoken, Janine. Janine has been having a problem lately. I promised you a couple clips. I told you she was the right racist for the job. Maybe she is, but she's having a problem with the media. She's having a problem dealing with tough questions, having a problem composing herself, much like she did at Fox year after year after year. Those 4 or 5 martini lunches are starting to take their toll. She just is having a hard time taking questions in general now. Her emotions are flaring up. She's feeling things.
You just walked through the changes you'd like to see from the punitive aspects. What about preventative? Do you or the president plan to do anything to address the root causes of crime in D.C., such as truancy?
My job is to try to heal the victims and prosecute the criminal. Everybody else can deal with rehabilitating the individual. I honestly am not concerned about why they commit crimes. My concern is if they commit crimes. My concern is the victims of the crimes. That's my job as a U.S. attorney.
Is she doing heroin with the RFK Jr.? My job is not to worry about the crime, the victims of the crime. She says she's struggling. She's struggling. She continues to struggle.
I can only hire during certain periods once there's been an ad or some kind of posting, and then I can hire. Okay, I'm doing it. I'm doing the best I can. The president has given me the permission to hire. This is an office that has been neglected, and I'll say it publicly. It's been neglected. With people signing contracts, they didn't know what they were signing. All right, it just kind of ran on its own. Not anymore. This is an office where nobody seemed to care that we were down 90 lawyers, 60 investigators, and paralegals. I do.
Janine, put that martini down. I've got this primo heroin cut with ivermectin. I'm not doing that. That's insensitive. I didn't just do that on camera. Yeah, she's having a hard time with it. She's having a really hard time with it. And, those reporters were asking about prevention. That's what they were asking about. Prevention. It's a good thing to ask about. Right now, everything's a nail when all you've got is a hammer, right? They're just hammering down on D.C. Maybe some of this could have been prevented. Maybe there were things in place that had contributed to the drop in crime, the 30% drop that Kash Patel pointed to, right? Mistakenly pointed to when Trump's sitting here trying to justify federalization. Kash Patel's over here talking about crimes at all-time low in D.C. and other places because of Trump and his team. Oops. And maybe some of that prevention, had a hand in some of these numbers dropping. So a reporter asked her what about prevention? It's a good question. And it's a question that was brought up on MSNBC.
Because for all this rhetoric about cleaning up crime, what President Trump didn't mention yesterday was he cut nearly $1 billion in DOJ grants for violence prevention and police training, including $150 million focused on combating gun violence in cities like Washington, D.C. Now, a judge blocked the administration from revoking $11 billion. That includes funding for addiction and mental health care, but they tried to do that as well. NBC's Garrett.
She's talking about cuts in gun prevention and cuts in mental health services. In the face of this federalization, pointing to crime numbers, talking about, I'm not worried about prevention. We know you're not. We know this administration's not. How do I know that? In April of 2025, the DOJ abruptly canceled $810 million in grants covering gun violence prevention, victim services, crime solving, and more. 373 grants across 48 states were canceled. Gun prevention specifically, 69 of 145 grants canceled, totaling $158 million slashed from gun prevention specifically. It continues. You see, they love to talk about thoughts and prayers, and then the next word out of their mouth is, we have to address the mental health. Mental health is what is the problem, not guns or access to guns. It's the mental health that's the problem. That's what they love to tell you, right? Well, states like Texas and Florida have been cutting mental health for years while making gun access way easier. It has not dropped the gun rate. It has not dropped it at all. Go figure. How about that? But you want to talk about mental health. Well, the American Progress Organization reports that the DOJ has cut mental health and substance abuse disorder services across the board. Dick Durbin pointed out, specifically rescinded $1 billion in mental health grants for schools intended to support counseling and violence prevention. As far as the CDC and the HHS goes, Trump has cut personnel and programs at the CDC for injury prevention and gun control, and sweeping HHS reorganization has laid off about 20,000 employees, significantly impacting public health infrastructure, including areas related to injury prevention and mental health. And just in August, the administration froze $200 to $300 million, the numbers are murky, somewhere between $200 and $300 million in CDC funding that included youth violence prevention and gun injury. I want you to ingest those numbers, and I want you to regurgitate them to the next Second Amendment insane person in your life who's right now teaching his 8-year-old how to hit a target from a 500 meters with a 22 right now. And I'm not saying, let me not get on a tangent, all right? And especially because if the government does fall apart, those militias I'm denigrating right now, we'll be running to them for protection probably. Those people that have been teaching their children to shoot since they could stand up straight, the people with the rations and the emergency cellars that they built underneath their shed with years of ration. Those people, we will be begging for their help if everything does come crashing down. But right now, it hasn't. Right now, we're in a functioning society, kind of. And those people who are all about their automatic rifles, taking the firing pins out, gigantic caliber weapons that are only meant for war, assault rifles, right? The people, the nuts in your life that want to spit the Second Amendment at you and tell you it's mental health illness and not his guns that are the threat. You tell them those numbers. You repeat back to them what their government is doing about the mental health. Not just nothing, they're cutting. They are literally damaging the apparati or whatever that are in place, right, to prevent this kind of crime. They are dismantling it. The safeguards against mental health related shootings are being dismantled as they talk about mental health, okay? As they talk about mental health. So just keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. Got to get my own music started. You know the deal. Scotty, your boy's doing it. We're doing it. We're more than halfway through the show. No major breakdowns. The internet is held. You hear my alarm going off because although I have ADHD and I can do a few things at once, I can't do them all at once, unfortunately. So you may hear the alarm go off again. I apologize. So I'm going to continue a little bit on this path when we come back. There's somebody I want you to hear from. Somebody who has a unique perspective on violence in Washington. Somebody who it will be very hard for the right to just dismiss as a libtard or a far left zealot or a democrat. We're going to hear from one Danny Hodges when I come back. And he's going to give his perspective on what's going on in D.C. right now. I'm looking forward to it.
They'll try to repair the narrative, but Brett Breaks Things will be back tomorrow to break it all down.
It happens in countries like Russia, Iran, and China. The inner circle of the dictator get very rich, while the rest of the country struggles. Now it's happening in America. Donald Trump's chief of staff, Susie Wiles, over $4.5 million. Stephen Miller, that angry little guy his own family attacks, hundreds of thousands. Trump's former golf caddy, Dan Scavino, over $2 million. Sergio Gore, 38-year-old former DJ from Malta, Over 1 million. What's Donald Trump done for you? You paying less for eggs? Your taxes gone down? Social Security offices are closing. VA services slashed. Trump's pushing the largest Medicaid cut in history and the biggest tax cut for billionaires. Trump's golden circle gets rich, while the rest of us struggle. It's not fair. Russia, Iran, China, corrupt dictatorships. And now, America. Donald Trump. It's just not working.
Breaking news, breaking rules, breaking through. Back to Brett Breaks Things.
Okay, so we're going to hear from one Danny Hodges, and we're going to get his perspective on what's going on right now in D.C., and I want to give you a little background on this guy, all right? I want to give you a little background on Danny Hodges. He is an MPD officer, all right? Served in the Metropolitan Police Department, part of the Civil Disturbance Unit number 42, with riot response duties, okay? He joined in 2014, and as of 2025 right now, he has 11 years of service. Prior to that, he spent 6 years in the 116th Infantry Regiment, 3rd Battalion, as an indirect fire infantryman, okay? And joined the MPD after his service. 6 years. 6 years, okay? He was there on January 6th. He wasn't just there. He was attacked. He was attacked on January 6th, okay? He was crushed by a door frame. His police shield was stolen from him and crushed him into that door frame as they shouted, "Heave ho, heave ho." He sustained internal injuries from that. His gas mask was grabbed, and his head was repeatedly beat against a pole. Then they ripped the gas mask off, exposing him to some of the chemicals that were in the air, and lacerated his neck, strained his neck as they tried to rip it off. Doesn't come off easy. His baton, after his gas mask was off, his baton was stolen from him, and then he was beat over the head with it. He sustained lacerations on his face, his lip, everything was bleeding, concussion. One of them, once his gas mask was off, attempted to gouge his eyes, had his thumb in Daniel's eye, attempting to gouge it out. He also had a large object, a part of a scaffolding, thrown and hit him right in the head when his gas mask was off, giving him another concussion. 2. That's 2. And you're saying, Brett, you're making this stuff up. Ashley Babbitt was the real victim on January 6th, not these police officers. You're making it up. Am I? Because the DOJ did its own internal investigation, on what happened that day and what happened specifically to the officers, and they collected video evidence of every single thing I just described to you. DOJ. So, he was awarded the Congressional Gold Medal for defending the Capitol, and he personally got the President's Citizen Medal on January 6th, 2023. That is who Danny Hodges is. So let's hear from him.
Daniel Hodges, who was on duty during the January 6th assault on the Capitol when he was violently beaten by the mob. I want to thank you for being on the program. Officer Hodges, do you know who's in charge of law enforcement in the nation's capital right now? How do things feel out there?
Thanks for having me, Chris. Speaking on my own behalf and not on behalf of my employer, as far as I know, the chain of command has not changed, at least for the day-to-day police officers in D.C. The emergency federalization doesn't make a lot of sense to me because deploying these National Guard troops to D.C., I served as a Virginia National Guard member for 6 years, and I can tell you that this is not what they're trained to do. Soldiers are trained to fight and win wars. We're not in a war out here in D.C. It's there's crime out here, but it's not a war-torn hellscape like Trump has said. It's the troops are not trained to do law enforcement. This is not their lane. This is not what they're supposed to be doing.
So what could be realistically expected of them? Because as I said, the White House put out this statement and they said multi-agency teams. I think, for example, if you want to talk about managing crowds, yes, certainly for big events, there are crowds in Washington, D.C. I don't know, having lived there for 3 years on a day-to-day basis, that we see huge crowds of people necessarily around Washington. What do you make of a kind of partnership? Can it be useful?
Yeah, I'm not aware of any enormous events that warrant the deployment of hundreds of National Guard units for
None of
crowd
us are,
control.
Daniel. None of us are.
With regards to federal partners, we could always use more hands, but I don't think this is really their specialization either. So many of these federal officers are investigators. They're supposed to be behind a desk, working that way, but they're not. You're going to see them standing around in Chinatown or on the mall or walking around Georgetown. They're not going east of the river. They're not doing what really needs to be done around here for help. So it could be helpful, but I don't think it's going to be.
So that wasn't leftist rhetoric. Okay, he's not out here getting political. He's not waging the culture war. He's making sense. And he has a unique perspective. He's just making sense. How do you feel about what he said, conservatives, people who are all about what's happening in D.C.? I mean, are you? Can you as easily dismiss this gentleman as you do the rest of the left when you hear them? Just not a word gets in, or do you respect this guy enough to listen to what he has to say about it? I have my doubts, but I'd love to think you do. I'd love to think some of that you ingested, and it maybe gives you something to think about. Go look him up. See if you respect him as much as I think you should. And see if you might respect his position on this just a little bit. Maybe hip you to a few things. Give you a little context. Other people are out here making sense. Wes Moore, this guy, Governor of Maryland. Okay? Governor of Maryland. He has a lot of experience in tackling high crime rates in metropolitan areas. Baltimore, who has seen a major drop in its crime rates, a major drop in its murders, violent crimes, gun-related crime, all dropping in Baltimore. Seems like the right guy for the job to me. And I'd love to have his perspective on what's going down in the middle of his state. Let's hear from him.
Fact that I still currently, right now, have men and women who are deployed overseas doing operations. This is something that I take very seriously, particularly as someone who's worn the uniform. Particularly as someone who's had to say goodbye to my family, particularly as someone who has had to trust the judgment of the commander-in-chief, knowing that the decision that they made was one that had not just the best interest of the national security in mind, but the best interest of me and my family. And so all I'm saying is this, is if we want to have a serious conversation about violent crime, we can have a serious conversation about violent crime. And I would love to be able to share the multitude of things that we are doing in the state of Maryland, where we are surging support for local law enforcement, surging support for predictive analytics and technologies, surging supports for community groups, and allowing more supports for the mayor and the county executive and the people on the ground doing the work. And we were able to receive some really encouraging and historic results in Baltimore and around the state of Maryland. And I never once had to mobilize the National Guard in order to accomplish those feats.
Boom. And he goes on to get in a little argument. The host, I forgot his name, he goes on to say, hey, you don't understand the struggle black people in Washington, D.C. are going through. And he's like, hi, I get the struggle, my brother. It's an interesting exchange, but it has less to do with the topic. I didn't want to get inflammatory and off on a whole thing, so I just kind of mentioned it. But yeah, he's saying, look, preventative measures, analytics, support with the officers, giving them what they need, being concerned, invested in lowering crime has resulted in historic lows in Baltimore. We could have done that in D.C. We still can. Federalization is not necessary. Not necessary. I did want to play this. I played you some clips of Skeletor talking about Rick Scott out of Florida, talking about how dangerous D.C. is and the violent crime that his staff has experienced. And then you heard from Tom Cotton from Arkansas talking about D.C. These guys are professionals. They know exactly what they're talking about in terms of somebody else's city. Of course they know. They were so emboldened to go out and talk about the crime in D.C. Somebody else jumped on that train. Somebody else jumped on that bandwagon. The old tussler. Let's hear from the old tussler, Mark Wayne Mullins.
And by the way, I'm not joking when I say this. I drive around in Washington, D.C. in my Jeep, and yes, I do drive myself, and I don't buckle up. And the reason why I don't buckle up, and people can say whatever they want to, they can raise their eyebrows at me again, is because of carjacking. I don't want to be stuck in my vehicle when I need to exit in a hurry because I got a seatbelt around me. And I wear my seatbelt all the time, but in Washington, D.C., I do not because it is so prevalent of carjacking. And I don't want the same thing happen to me, what's happened to a lot of people that work on the Hill.
Also, I don't wear my seatbelt because if they try to carjack me, I might have to come out here and just pop them one. Give me a 1-2 because I'm Mark Wayne Mullins, the congressional pugilist champion. You fight me. Mark Wayne, tough guy. He's talking about carjackings on Capitol Hill. Well, I had to put on my Scotty hat today, and I went and I looked. And yeah, we've got 2 instances over the last 6 years. Rep. Scanlon was carjacked. She was carjacked in 2021. Car returned hours later. And Rep. Henry Seller, out of Texas, he was carjacked at gunpoint in 2023. So it happened twice. And Mark Wayne Mullins out here telling you, hey, it's too dangerous out here. I might get carjacked and have to, really, mono de Piedros, baby. Fist of death. Mark Wayne's super scared now. He's super scared. And let's hear from the big doofy head of cracking brown people's skull, Mr. Holman here. I love getting sound bites from this guy.
President Trump doesn't have a limitation on his authority to make this country safe again. There's no limitation on that. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Holman.
That's right. And then he robots out. I don't know what's happening to that video. No limitation. No limitation on Trump's authority. Well, there is a 30-day limit, Mr. Holman. I'm glad that's your perspective, but there is a limitation. There's a 30-day limit that he can do this. I want you to keep that in mind. Because they could go to the Senate. They could try to get 60 votes. It's not on recess. They're there. Could try to get 60 votes and make this permanent. It's unlikely. 60 votes in the Senate is unlikely at any point, especially right now. So I don't even know if they're going to try to pursue that path. But if he tries to stay past the 30 days without congressional approval, things get interesting, right? We could really head into dictator territory. And of course, there's always the question, who's next?
We'll be back to break it all down. You're listening to Brett Breaks Things.
Alligator Alcatraz, an impregnable prison camp surrounded by miles of the most deadly parts of Florida. Poisonous snakes, fierce and hungry alligators, miles of unmapped swamps, storms, hurricanes, fierce heat. No one's getting out of Alligator Alcatraz. The people in Alligator Alcatraz are subhumans, the worst of the worst. Alligator Alcatraz is going to teach these criminals a lesson. If you're upset by Alligator Alcatraz, just wait. Because when the Trump era ends, we're keeping it open for the corrupt crypto scammers like Don Jr., who cashed in on the presidency. Keeping it open for folks like Stephen Miller, Kristi Noem, and Tom Homan, who ignore the law, ignore court orders, and deploy masked cops in warrantless raids. We're even keeping it open for the state and federal agents who abuse their power. You built this, MAGA, and some of you will enjoy the view from inside the wire.
Brett breaks things because someone has to.
Okay, so here we are. This is going to be the final segment. You know what? I got to play another commercial. Give me 1 second, kids. Give me 1 second. I got to play another commercial. I'm by myself. A little bit of a hiccup. Coming right back to you.
The investigation of Jeffrey Epstein's horrendous crimes is now closed. Epstein was one of the worst predators ever known, a sexual trafficker, an abuser of women and young girls, a man arrested and imprisoned for unspeakable crimes. Attorney General Pam Bondi, FBI Director Kash Patel, and Deputy FBI Director Dan Bongino have released their final report. It says that Epstein never had a client list. There was never any...
All right, we're not going to go through the whole thing. Cutting it right there. I made it through real quick. All right, sorry about that. I do apologize. So, yeah, Scotty's not here today. Some of you people that join me later, you're wondering what's going on, why is Brett being so downright unprofessional. I am by myself today, but we made it through. So that's the aesthetics. Why we're going a little longer? Because I want to go a little longer today. That's why. So, in this final segment, I'm going to alarm you real quick, and then we're going to have the feel-goods together. We're going to feel good about some stuff together. I promise you. I'm going to give you the feel-goods. But first, I have to alarm you. I have no choice.
Trump is continuing to not hire the best people. The administration is tapping a MAGA loyalist for the top job at the Bureau of Labor Statistics. You see him there, E.J. Antoni, Project 2025 contributor, an economist at the pro-Trump Heritage Foundation, who Steve Bannon urged Trump to nominate after Trump fired the previous jobs data chief because he didn't like the data, accusing her of manipulating stats without offering any evidence. Antoni has been a vocal critic of the agency and said this right before Trump fired the previous administrator.
Have we put in our own person into BLS? Is a MAGA Republican that President Trump knows and trusts? Are they running the Bureau of Labor Statistics yet, sir?
No, unfortunately, Steve, we still haven't gotten there. And I think that's part of the reason why we continue to have all of these different data problems.
Meet E.J. Antoni. E.J. Antoni, our new Bureau of Labor Statistics Commissioner. McIntyre, gone. She had the gall to give you actual numbers regarding Trump's presidency and the job report. She had the gall to release actual figures that showed job creation is way below projections, and Trump couldn't have that. She had to go. Even though we detailed on this program, that position has absolutely no effect on the data compiling of those job statistics. She had no part in it. She doesn't compile any of that data. She simply rubber stamps it and sends it along. That is the totality of her effect on the jobs report. Wasn't her deal. She got bleep canned. And now E.J. Antoni is our new commissioner. Got a PhD in economics from Northern Illinois University, a BA from St. Charles Borromeo Seminary and in Northern Illinois as well. So he's got a little bit of a background in economics. Currently served as the chief economist at the Heritage Foundation. Yup, there it is. Why are you going to be alarmed? Heritage Foundation. It gets worse. Antoni was a contributor to Project 2025. There it is. Another example of Project 2025 rearing its ugly head in this administration. The same Project 2025 that Trump said again and again, I haven't read it. I have nothing to do with it. I don't know what you're talking about. This Project 2025. You guys are freaking out. I don't know nothing about nothing. And here's yet another Project 2025 contributor. Yeah, and he wrote a chapter or two about the Bureau of Labor Statistics and this position specifically. And here he is in it, just like that. And there is concerns. Oh, yeah, there's concerns. One guy, Stan Vogler, a senior fellow at the Conservative American Enterprise Institute, he wrote to Axios. This is according to some Axios reporting. Antoni's work at the Heritage Foundation has frequently included elementary errors or nonsensical choices that all bias his findings in the same partisan direction. That's a guy from that's a senior fellow at the Conservative American Enterprise Institute saying this about Anthony. And there was another handpick going to the Federal Reserve Board, by the way, along with Anthony. Right at the same time, Stephen Mirren, he's going on the Federal Reserve Board to attack Jerome Powell, right? Jerome Powell won't cut these rates. He won't cut these rates. So they're now implanting people on the Fed board. The Fed governors are being planted one by Trump to get those rates cut. So now Mirren, Anthony, both been implanted in influential spots in our government. Heritage Foundation shills. They know the assignment. Now, Anthony has called Social Security a Ponzi scheme numerous times. This guy, he's been on Steve Bannon's podcast a number of times. Steve's been pushing him for this position. You just saw him on the podcast a second ago. Bannon loves this guy. If Bannon loves him, you should hate him. Period. And he's called, on multiple occasions, it's called Social Security a Ponzi scheme. He posted to X one time, you can elongate a Ponzi scheme, but you can never make it permanent. On Houston's Morning News in December, Anthony went on at length about Social Security being a Ponzi scheme, and we need to sunset it. He said Social Security is rapidly becoming insolvent because it was basically set up as a Ponzi scheme, so it can't go on forever. The instances of him banging this particular drum, they go on and on and on. You still think Social Security isn't under attack? You think it's safe? He said he was going to, no taxes on Social Security. Nope, just a deduction. Didn't follow through on that either. You think Social Security is safe? And it gets worse about this guy. It gets worse. This guy was at the Capitol on January 6th. Oh, yeah. He was there. Just a tourist, right? They were all just tourists. He was there. Now, from all accounts, he did not take place in any violence. He didn't even demonstrate, but he was there. Footage shows Anthony approximately an hour after the mob removed police barricades. He's still in the crowd once the barricades were removed. And the footage appears to show him leaving the grounds as people entered the Capitol, and he did not personally enter the Capitol, but he was there. Levitt, she's all about it. She's had a lot to say about the Bureau of Labor Statistics.
Just on the BLS, they collect the inflation data, obviously. If the jobs data is not reliable, should Americans trust the inflation data?
Well, look, the jobs data has had massive revisions. We want to ensure that all of the data, the inflation data, the jobs data, any data point that is coming out of the BLS is trustworthy and is accurate, which is why the president has restored new leadership at the BLS.
That's right. New leadership at the BLS. And he's pushing for quarterly, not monthly job reports. He says they're more accurate. And he points to, hey, nobody can trust anything you hear anymore, numbers-wise, right? Because we've now told you that the BLS has been radicalized and you can't believe their numbers. And you already can't believe Trump, right? And so who do you believe? Who can you believe ever again out of the government? Now, the precedent has been set. We're going to look fondly back at a time when we would get jobs report numbers, GDP numbers, inflation numbers out of our government, out of the Bureau of Labor Statistics and places like that, the CBO, and we would say, okay, that's what it is. And then we would react to that one way or another, but we at least as a group, as a country, for the most part said, okay, the CBO says this, it is that. The BLS, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, it says something. That's what it is for the most part. We believe it. Those days are gone. The right will never believe data out of a non-radicalized, Trump-appointed official ever again. And the left is right to never believe anything that comes out of Trump's mouth or anything out of the mouths of his sycophants. So now we're left with nobody trusting anything. That's where we've landed. It's obviously a very sad state of affairs. So another position, sycophant from Project 2025 implanted right in our government. Fine. I've alarmed you. Now let's have a little bit of fun. During the recess of the House, GOP leadership specifically told its members don't have town halls. Just don't have them. Our voting base is pissed off. We've pissed them off. The one big beautiful bill has pissed them off. Not everybody we thought that would be down with an authoritarian immigration policy is down with it. Not everybody's down with it. Even Republicans. There are Republicans out there, believe it or not, GOP leaders, that don't like Gestapo tactics. How about that? Surprise, surprise. But a couple of brave reps, they headed right into it anyway. And here's some results. This is Doug LaMafia. He decided, yeah, I'll go to California. I'll go to my district in California, and I'll meet these people head on. Here's how that went. Yeah, it went well. It went well. By the way, George R.R. Martin, you've got to be so proud of yourself. Look at how you're influencing American culture. You have become part of the zeitgeist. You got spiky blonde-haired pink shirt guys out here in front of CPB. Shame, shame, shame. Now a whole town hall full of Republicans to their rep. Shame, shame, shame. I got a little bit more from LaMafia's little appearance here.
Get off the train. Comment? We'll never forget, Doug! My question actually is, if you're not here to either announce your resignation, why aren't you here to apologize to the farmers of the North State because of your support for the Trump tariffs? Why aren't you here to apologize to North State farmers?
I can do either, thanks.
I'm not going to do either of them things.
Talk about something productive?
I'm not going to do either of those things, is what he said.
Phrase that question on tariffs or agriculture in general?
Your support of tariffs are hurting the state farmers.
How'd you think this was going to go, Doug?
And then you get, the lady was talking about due process, right? Due process for Ghislaine Maxwell, due process for the people on January 6th.
What?
Due process for her. They're found guilty. If it's an elected official, if they're found guilty of that, boom, down the road. Absolutely.
Wow. Wow. The one guy said, you either give me your resignation or apologize to all the farmers you have hurt by being complicit with Donald Trump's tariff policy. I'm not going to do either of those things. Defiantly, indignantly. And then later on, they're screaming about due process for these immigrants. And he's talking about, what about due process for Ghislaine Maxwell, is what he said. What about due process for those January 6th rioters? But no, patriots is, I think, what he said. What about due process for them is what he says. Nice. Real nice. Other things that they leveled at him. One of them said to him, we're not headed towards an authoritarian fascist government. We are already there. Another resident called out Trump's spending plan, the big bull bleep bill, and was chastised by LaMafia for his language. So LaMafia said, hey, watch your language. And they said to him, bleep you. Who said Republicans don't have a sense of humor?
They'll try to repair the narrative, but Brett Breaks Things will be back Monday to break it all down.